Yeah, welcome to Oddball. It's Thursday. That means this is our weekend. I don't know about you guys. All you stiffs got to work on a Friday. Not us here at Oddball. We're done after this one.
One of my least favorite phrases, Amin, is Thursday is my Friday.
How about people like Tuesday is my Friday because they have weird work schedules where Wednesday and Thursday are their days off.
They all work in the service industry. Speaking of Thursday, all week long, I've had trouble sleeping. I'm stressing out, or have been stressing about leaving Domantas Sabonis off of my All-Star ballot.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until yesterday, because we were talking about this, that I realized no need to stress out. Because I don't know if All-Star game making really adds to players' legacies.
I don't know. I'm not ready to throw that one away. And it's interesting because there have been a lot of conversations, Izzy, about like, why do we even have an All-Star weekend? Why don't we just name All-Stars and give the players the days off? And I'm like, I'm going to tell you why. Turner and then whoever, I guess NBC is next, but it's like they pay a lot of money for the exclusive rights of All-Star weekend to say, hey, we get the rookie game, we get the Saturday night, we get the HBCU game, and we get, of course, the Sunday Spectacular. So you could say, hey, we don't need an All-Star game, and then you can just take however much % out of everyone's check, because that's all going in to be all right. So that's not the conversation we're having. We're having a conversation, Izzy, about does the mere fact of being named an All-Star matter, right?
Right, because I used to look we're similar ages. I think I'm a little bit older than you, am I?
I think you are. Yeah, you're a lot older than I am. You have gray hair. I don't.
So I'm a lot older than you, but I think we still grew up in a time where we would look at players. Like, there was a book that I got. I forget who wrote it. It was just basically ranking the best players of all time. And at the very first page of every chapter, it was not Stugatz. At the very first page of every chapter, it was number of MVPs, top 5 MVP finishes, All-Star game MVPs, all that. And I read that stuff and never blinked at All-Star game or All-Star game MVPs because they used to matter, right? So we can talk about like the decline of the game and them not mattering at all, but let's just look at it as a whole, because to me, it used to be very much a legacy marker. But now that I think about it, the idea that the All-Star game is effectively rewarding a player for playing like 30% of a season is not something that you just like, okay, that player definitely had an All-Star season. When the All-Star game placement or nominees do not match up with the All-NBA lists at the end of the season, then you're just like, okay, who actually had the better season? So I'm starting to think that you shouldn't really pay attention if you're thinking of like Hall of Fame voting, if you're thinking about this player better than that player. All-Star games, probably not that high on the list.
Yeah, so this is the interesting thing, because there's a difference between is it and should it. Those are two very different questions. Is it and should it? Should it refers to a hypothetical that, hey, we can start today and say All-Star games are the most important thing or the least important thing or whatever. Or we could start today and say, hey, whoever wins the steals title, that is the most important thing. That is the crown jewel of a player's achievements, right? These are all kind of arbitrary. They're achievements, yes, objective achievements, but we have put arbitrary weights on them, right? And based on our behaviors and how we've acted towards these achievements, that tells us the answer to is it. And so when it comes to All-Star games, and I feel like Maury Povich right now as I pick up my card.
It is daddy.
Yeah, the lie detector test, no, the test determined that All-Star appearances absolutely matter. Not only do they matter, Izzy, they are the number one determining factor for whether someone is going to be a Hall of Famer or not. Now, take a beat here.
Except for Vlade Divac.
Basketball Reference. Okay, so here we go. Basketball Reference, the lovely, wonderful website. There's a lot of resources on it. Basketball Reference has this number on every single player page. It is your Hall of Fame probability score. It's based on a scale of 0 to 100%, right? What are your chances of being a Hall of Famer if your career ended on this day, right? So for retired players, obviously it's the entirety of your career. If it's people like Jason Tatum and, Luka Doncic, it's if it ended today, you didn't accumulate another stat or accolade, right? Mm-hmm. And this is based on people who make it because of their NBA career. We're not counting the Vlade Divac's where your international contributions. We're not counting the Doug Collins where your contributions overall to the game. We're not counting, Jerry Krause. And we're just counting what you did on an NBA floor. Is this Hall of Fame worthy?
Right.
And what they did was they looked at all the Hall of Famers who are in, and they shoveled in all of the accolades that someone can accumulate. Winning a championship, how many All-Star appearances, how many times you were on the leaderboard for assists, rebounds, points, steals, blocks, the major things. And what they found, like I said, the number one determining factor was All-Star appearances. By far, by the way, way more than the number two factor, which was have you won a championship / how many championships have you won? So
that's has it in your
that's the,
it
has
absolutely has.
Has it, and that's not the voters who are putting in numbers into a calculator. That's the algorithm. Basically, the regression is what I should call it.
Okay, let's go there because that is the best bridge, right, from All-Star game to Hall of Fame. If we're talking about whether it matters or not. And I remember when Mitch Richmond got in, and I was like, "Oof, 5 All-Star games doesn't seem like that many." And that just sort of became the measurement for me. It's 5 is the minimum. So it does matter when you talk about like Zion Williamson. He's already made 2 All-Star games, but one of those seasons he checked out. He was injured, didn't play after the All-Star game. That's I think it was a 29 game season.
Yeah.
That's not an All-Star season, right? Joel Embiid had one of those, and he's probably going to make the Hall of Fame anyway. Won an MVP, etc. But he had one of those. Kevin Durant had one of those. Julius Randle, a 3-time All-Star, had one of those. So is he a 3-time All-Star, or should he really only had 2? And so I think in those situations, like, you're absolutely overvaluing what the All-Star season meant.
I'll do you one better. You pick guys that made the All-Star game and then didn't play the rest of the season. What if I told you, listen to this lineup of players from throughout NBA history? Dame Lillard, right? Ray Allen, Paul George, Dirk Nowitzki, Dikembe Mutombo. First of all, 3 of these guys are Hall of Famers. Throw in Dame, he's top 75, so he's locked in to be a Hall of Famer. And I would say Paul George is a Hall of Famer as well. All of these guys were injury replacement All-Stars.
Right.
Not at the beginning of their career, not at the end of their career, because there are a lot of injury replacements throughout history. But like a lot of people, their first All-Star appearance is as an injury replacement. So Kevin Garnett was like that. Devin Booker was like that. I think Dirk Nowitzki was like that. And then a lot of guys are injury replacements at the end of their career. Kind of like this is going to be his last one. Like Jason Kidd is a great example of that. So people are kind of adding on these All-Star appearances by virtue of someone getting hurt. And when you look at that list of guys, and then you think about guys like Kyle Lowry, Al Horford, who like kind of packed in All-Star appearances, that's going to be a big part of their eventual Hall of Fame. Like submission is like, I'm a 6-time All-Star. I was an All-Star here, and there. Same thing with 2 guys who have gotten in recently, Chauncey Billups and Tim Hardaway. Like what helped their arguments more so, like even for Chauncey, more so than being Finals MVP. Think about that. More than being Finals MVP was being a multiple-time All-Star for Chauncey Billups.
5. I believe 5. That was my cutoff point for him. And the thing, you're also, to your point, you take team success more valuable than your individual, right? So there's guys like Tyrese Maxey this year who might be left off, who's got better numbers than other people. There were 2 years consecutively, 16 and 17, where Damian Lillard did not make the All-Star game. Go look at those numbers. It's insane that he didn't make it. You know who did make it? And everybody, and I was laughed at on national television by a couple of guys saying that Klay Thompson should not have made the All-Star team over Damian Lillard that year. Right. Go look at the stats and say what you will. It was all about the Warriors. Oh, he's the best 2-way player out there. Damian Lillard probably should have made the All-Star team ahead of him. But that's not really going to make a difference in either of their legacies. Where I think it makes the most difference is, like you're saying, the guys who are right there on the fringe. Like, if Tyler Hero doesn't make it this year, will he have time to make 5 more in his career and maybe think about making an All-Star game? those to me, the Julius Randle example that I gave, if he makes 2 more, will they count that 5th one as an all-star appearance? Probably, because they're probably not even going to do the stat research on that.
Right. And going back to my examples of Billups and Hardaway, those are both the guys that didn't go in on first ballot. So take one all-star appearance away from either of those guys. That's a massive blow to their legacy. That's not right. Like, they barely got in. Right. I'm not. By the way, I'm not saying they should have or should not have gone in. I thought both of those guys were all-stars and should have been all-stars. What I'm saying to you is, clearly this thing weighs heavy on voters, whether they acknowledge it out loud or they don't. It means something to voters, like, oh, he was a 6-time all-star. Yeah. So when you take a 6-time all-star and make him a 5-time, or a 5-time, make him a 4-time, like every time when, like, as you said, Izzy, you're not one of these 12-time all-star people like KG and Dirk and Dwayne Wade. When you're one of these people in the 3 to 5 range, it matters. For Klay Thompson, right? I believe he was a 4-time all-star, right? If he's not on 4 NBA championship teams, if he's Klay Thompson with 1 NBA championship, right? Which is very likely, the way the league has been, is he a Hall of Famer at that point? Right? Like you only made 4 all-star teams. Or again, if they don't win 4 championships or however many championships, 2018 it would have been 3 championships. Does he get that all-star nod over Damian Lillard? Yeah. Probably not. So, like, these things matter, right? Like, in order to overcome a relative lack of all-star appearances, he needed to be on a 3-time, 4-time, like, historical 173. He needs to be on one of the greatest teams of all time.
Right. Look at Devin Booker, 4-time all-star. Individually, people probably say more talented offensive player. He's got to do a lot more if he's going to make it there at this point. There's other guys that are different. Ben Wallace, for example, 4-time all-star, but also 4-time depoy. So it's kind of like you don't really, there's other things you can put as more important. I do want to bring this up too, because I do think that sort of bringing value back to the actual all-star game will help this part of the conversation, will help players' legacy. Because, again, just as a fan, I look back and I think of these playoffs or these all-star game MVPs. Like, the coolest one for me ever was watching Glenn Rice, because he used to be a Miami Heat player and then he was with the Charlotte Hornets. And he was just lighting people up, and I was like, wow, this dude who was on my team as a kid, like, is now winning the All-Star Game MVP the year after Michael Jordan won it, and a year before he's like Michael Jordan on both sides. Glenn Rice won one. And if you look at the names of people who've won All-Star Game MVPs, you're like, wow, like, that's the cream of the crop, best of the best. The last 2 All-Star Game MVPs, could you name them? Because I don't think most people can.
Giannis?
Nope.
I don't know. I can't. No, I don't know.
Jason Tatum and Damian Lillard.
Yeah.
Those, they mean nothing anymore.
Yeah. And I think it's funny. When we were younger, Izzy, I remember, like, wanting the all-star, because remember, the coaches picked the reserves, and wanting them to pick more fun players. Oh, why are we this guy is just boring. It's an all-star game. I want it to be fun. And now, when I think about LaMelo Ball, who may or may not be a snub, we're going to have to see how it turns out. I think about a guy like LaMelo Ball, who 30 years ago, I'd be like, how is he not an all-star? Put him in there, make it fun. And now I'm like, no, I need people to make it serious, because the fun has gone too far. And in the hyper focus of just talking about this all-star game and fixing the all-star game now, my attitude is get LaMelo Ball out of here. But then, is this because I'm reacting to the state of the game? Am I now snubbing LaMelo Ball out of the all-star appearance that might end up being the difference in him being a Hall of Famer one day or not?
Yep. Even with, let's say, Tyler Hero, they are discussing him, anybody who discusses him, as having an all-star caliber season, regardless of whether he makes the team or not. And if that continues, if you look at, again, like Damian Lillard, those 2 years, 16 and 17, you look at his final stats for the season, look at the games played, look at the numbers, it will have been an all-star caliber season. And instead of debating how many all-star games he's made, you're debating, well, he got snubbed clearly from like 4. So I think when you include fan voting into that, which throws in, we've seen it years in the past, that's why they had to change the rules, throws in people who maybe don't truly deserve it. I think all-star numbers or all-stars appearances have been largely inflated in people's legacies.
Inflated. And also, one last thing to leave off of. Izzy, if you were a player and I asked you empirically, just in terms of the game, the purest interpretation, would you rather be all NBA or an all-star?
Oh, all NBA.
Right.
Easy.
And yet we've had players who have been all NBA who weren't all-stars, and they're generally not thought of as highly as their peers. Guys like Darren Williams, guys like Goran Dragic, like those are guys that were all NBA players in years where they weren't all-stars. And it's like, yeah, you're not with the cool group. And so I think there is an element of that as well. And so that's why I go back to the beginning. The question, is it or should it? If it's is it, then yes, it does matter. Yes. If it should it, probably matters too much.
It matters more to the people who make one or two, I believe. Like you retire, you make one or two, you can say, hang your hat, hey, I made a couple all-star games. Not going to make the Hall of Fame, but I'm going to point to those all-star appearances.
Yeah, because there was a party. There was no party for all NBA. Hey, hot potato, new segment next. All right, welcome back to Oddball. Izzy, Gutierrez, Amin Elhassan. And we're going to introduce a new game today. Izzy, I'm really excited about this one. It's called Hot Potato, right? Now, if you watch Impractical Jokers, if you watch Colin Jost and Michael Che on Saturday Night Live, both of those shows have an element where each host will write the joke or write the thing that the other host has to say. The other host doesn't know what's been pre-written for them, but when it comes up, they have to defend it. They cannot deny it. It's the ultimate yes and. It's the ultimate improv exercise. And so I love Impractical Jokers. I love Michael Che and Colin Jost. So this is right up my alley, Izzy. We're going to have 30 seconds to defend the take that we have to read that the other person wrote for us.
I don't know. I'm definitely more nervous about my having to defend your takes, but I'm ready to offer you one of mine right away.
All right. Well, let's go. Let's get it started. What's the first take?
Here's my card.
Wemby will never win a championship. Oh, this is easy. Put the timer up. Okay, so first of all, in the history of the NBA, it is incredibly difficult to win a championship. It's one of my most hated things is that people assume that if you're great, you got to win a championship. There's so many things that have to break right. Number one, you have to have the right teammates. So far, he hasn't had that. Number two, you have to have the right coach. Is Greg Popovich coming back? I don't know. Number three, you have to have organizational stability. San Antonio does have that. And number four, you have to have enough success so that the player says, you know what? I'll stick around here and not send my ass somewhere where they're going to mess it up even more. I doubt that's going to happen. He'll never win a championship.
Wow.
Yep.
That was fire right there. All great points. I feel like somebody slipped you that card early, but.
Izzy, I'm going to tell you right now, if that's what you're offering, man, get your oven.
Maybe I tossed you a softball early on.
I got a softball for you to start as well. Let's take a look.
Draymond Green was more important to the Warriors' titles than any other player. That's an easy one. Start the clock. All right, look, I understand Steph Curry is the offensive genius, right? But come on, you do not win an NBA championship without defense. Go back to they didn't win an NBA championship, but go back to Allen Iverson. What happened with him? They got a bunch of defensive players around him. That's how they got to the finals. Couldn't beat the Lakers, but whatever. Draymond Green, whenever Steph passed the ball, it was 4-on-3. He was the genius. He was the one that created that offense. I would even argue his screen setting got Steph open more often. I would argue his motivation of Kevin Durant probably kept them on point for those 2 years. Easily, Draymond Green, number one reason they won titles.
He created their offenses. That's ladies and gentlemen, I think we now understand the premise of the show. When I say yes and, Izzy just yes anded the hell out of that. He said he created the offense. All right, cool. All right, here we go. All right, now all right. The softballs are out of the way. Here we go. OKC is not built to win in the playoffs. Go ahead. Duh, of course. Number one, their second best player keeps getting hurt. This guy can't stay on the floor at Holmgren. It's a hip now? You think hip injuries are easy to recover from? Ask Isaiah Thomas how that went. Yeah. All right. Number two, when you take him out, what are you going to do? You're going to win with one big, Isaiah Hartenstein? No offense to the other Jason Williams. J. Will, not J. Dub, but I just don't believe in him as a rotation big that can be on a championship team. Sure, he's a good player, but can he really help it? And then finally, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You can't shoot threes.
I think you could have stopped at no team has ever won a championship with two Jalen Williamses, and so that was a good one. Not bad.
The ball. All right.
Injured players, though. Bit of a crash.
There we go.
Whew. All right. the Thompson twins will never progress beyond role players because they can't hit the broadside of a barn. Wow.
Is he?
I said that out loud, didn't I?
thought you loved them. What happened?
Start the clock. All right, here's the problem with the Thompson twins, right? Amin is more of a ball handler, right? He's more of a point guard. You put him in that position for a team, there's going to be a lot easier ways to defend them. You're not going to be able to use your athleticism all the time. Asar Thompson is plug and play, ready to do, all kinds of things, but is never going to be a superstar. Doesn't really have the post game, doesn't really have the handles. His three-point shooting is a little bit better, but I just feel like they're very strong role players on quality teams.
I just watched Izzy die. A slow, agonizing death.
Troy Thompson, the father of the Thompson twins. Make sure you know that this is arguing something we don't believe in.
Yeah. All right, what do you got? All right. Trey Murphy III and Zion Williamson will be the next Kobe and Shaq. Okay. All right. Bear with me here. Injuries really suck. Both of those guys have had a lot of injuries to start their careers, but when they play, they're incredible. That is undeniable. Zion Williamson has put numbers up that literally nobody in the history of the NBA has ever put up before. So all they got to do is just get a little bit healthy. Maybe, Zion lay off to kind of like the fatty foods and stuff. Hey, Trey Murphy, stretch a little bit more. But once they get it together, they're both healthy, man, championships abundant.
Wow, didn't even need the entire clock. And all that you need for Trey Murphy to turn into Kobe Bryant is some stretching.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of like I did. I just stretched it.
My heart. Pat Riley needs to retire, even if Mickey Arison and the Heat have to shove him toward it. I mean, is this not the easiest question of them all? It's not that he failed Jimmy Butler. He failed himself. Let's be honest here. You don't think Pat Riley was dying a little bit when Kevin Durant didn't come here? You don't think that Pat Riley has replaced all dartboard stuff with LeBron's face and put Joe Cronin's face on there? Joe Cronin as an adversary? If you want an actual detail as to why Pat Riley is washed, that's why. Joe Cronin was laughing at him for at least 6 months. I do not need to work out today. I've done all my cardio.
I got Izzy burning every bridge he's ever had in the NBA. All right, what do we got next? Shaq was clearly that's a dirty one. Shaq was clearly the 2005 MVP. LeBron was clearly the 2006 MVP. So Steve Nash is clearly the most overrated player of all time.
Look it up.
Oh, God. Look, hey, man. Steve, what can we say about Shaq? Wasn't the greatest defensive player in the world, but he was adequate defensively, and he was dominant offensively. LeBron James, again, at that time, was not the greatest defensive player in the world, but he had some defensive adequacies, and of course, he was phenomenal offensively, although not quite to the peak where we would see him in a few years. Steve was not dominant defensively, was not good defensively. We had to cover for him the whole time. We had to make subsidies for him, and so the offense... I wish I could do that again.
Not terrible, but I think that might have been LeBron's highest scoring season ever. I think he averaged like 31.6 or something like that. So,
all right.
Oh, my Lord.
There you go.
Scoot Henderson will ultimately have a better career than Victor Wembanyama. Look, I am one of those people who's okay making mistakes, right? And early on, didn't think Scoot would be much of anything. Now you watch him, those straight line drives to the basket, the reason those were all his highlights coming in is because he can do that against anybody. And yes, maybe his whole thing was, I liked the food last year, my rookie year, but damn it, he was eating. And when he gets that three-point shot going, there will be nothing that can stop him. This is a game built for guards. I don't care how big you are. Get him any big to team with. He will absolutely win more championships and have a better career than Wemby.
All right, that was pretty good. That's pretty good. Okay, what do we got next? All the Warriors need to win another ring is Jordan Poole. I said on a pre-production meeting the other day that Jordan Poole offends me the way he plays basketball. But it's true. All the Warriors need is Jordan Poole. Look at all the problems they've had since they let go of Jordan Poole. They haven't been able to be consistent offensively. They are overly reliant on Steph Curry, even though they're trying to reduce their reliance on him, and it hasn't worked out. This team is a 500 team. You know what the last time they won a championship was? When Jordan Poole was on the Warriors. Hey, and by the way, Draymond Green, he apologized. He tweeted to Mark Spears, hey, I really am sorry. What more do you want? Bring him back, Warriors.
But then he added,
I'm nauseous.
But for real, get over it, is what he added afterward. Yeah, that was really tricky what you did there. You talked about the Warriors, not so much Jordan Poole. It's like you've done this before. All right, what do we got? Not only is Kobe Bryant not the best Laker ever, he's not even top 5. This one is super easy. He is a volume shooter. He is a man of his own, created his own narrative. He was never as dominant as Shaq. He was never as dominant as Magic Johnson. He was never as dominant as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I'm going to have to think of a couple other Lakers that were top 5. Elgin Baylor is probably a top 5 Laker, and Jerry West. They all did more for their respective Laker teams than Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant just clearly got on the cape of Shaquille O'Neal, needed Pau Gasol. Do you know how underrated Pau Gasol was as a defense? Both sides of the ball. Unbelievable. Kobe, waste.
That's really good, man.
You know how much I cried when he passed away?
And I had to do radio. And announce it to the world. That's one of the worst jobs ever.
Great take, though.
All right, that's going to do it for Hot Potato. I have a feeling that this segment will be revisiting us in the very near future. Hot Streak. It's presented by DraftKings. Stay tuned because you'll hear more about DraftKings and all it has to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Hell yeah. So last week, we picked Rockets against the Kings.
Let me stop you right there. I did not know that Fred VanVleet was not playing in that game. Otherwise, I wouldn't have picked it. But this week with Rivalry Week, we have a couple of good things to choose from.
Rivalry Week. Can
you say that easily? I can't.
Yeah, Rivalry Week. Do you want to, should we give it a different name so that you can pronounce it?
Sure. You got any?
I like Beef Week, to be honest with you. I think you can sell a spot.
I think that week's already taken.
All right, let's get on with the game. I was like, we can spell sponsorship. Like, we get Wendy's. And you're like, yeah, but it's not Wendy. All right. So Heat at Bucks. The Heat are without Jimmy Butler or because they suspended him for 2 games after missing a team flight yesterday. So he'll be not with them for the game against Milwaukee tonight and in Brooklyn on Saturday. The Bucks are 7-3 in their last 10. They're on a 4-game winning streak. They are 7-point favorites, Izzy.
I don't know if Tyler Hero's playing in this game. It's a game time decision because of a groin injury, but I do want to know what Kevin Love has been doing lately with his Instagram, trolling Jimmy Butler.
And the Scarface clip that he posted was, check it out on his feed. The other game we have is Celtics at Lakers. Celtics are 6.5-point favorites on the road. They beat the Clippers last night in overtime, but despite the Clippers not having anybody, their 4 best players didn't play. So Boston is on the second leg of a back-to-back in which both Brown and Tatum had to play heavy minutes in order to get that win. Can the Lakers keep it close and cover the spread? 6.5. Izzy, what do you got?
My heart says Celtics here, but I'm not, again, not supposed to gamble with your heart, but I think Celtics minus 6.5. I think they blow out the Lakers.
We followed you twice in a row and twice you've led us to damnation. I'm going to go Lakers plus 6.5. I think the Lakers.
One of them was Push Nation, not Damnation.
Okay, still. Not the nation we wanted to be in. This is the nation we want. Lakers plus 6.5. Final answer. That's it for Oddball. Michael Jordan, greatest of all time.